We're starting with the weather tonight, following the snow that arrived in the capital today, as with it came travel disruption. Not something commuters were hoping they'd be starting the new year with, especially those who take the Elizabeth line. Damage to electrical cables meant it's been running with delays that continue this evening. Temperature-wise, it plunged to a low of -8 last night, and the cold snap is set to continue. Well, in a moment, we'll hear from Sally, who's at the Snow Centre in Hemel Hempstead, with news of more bad weather on the way. But first, our correspondent Simon Harris, who's over at Paddington Station. Simon.
Charlene, Paddington is a chilly place to be hanging around in on a night like this, but waiting in the cold has been a reality for thousands of commuters today. Trains using the main line out of here to the west, to Reading and beyond, have been affected by a serious electrical fault. That's meant severe disruption all day to Great Western services, to the Heathrow Express and the Elizabeth line. Problems which continue this evening. You reckon you'll get home tonight?
I'm hoping so. I mean, I'm not sure about that red sign telling me that everything's not working.
I've been quite lucky. I've got no sort of real stress in what time I'm in. My sort of company is really good with that. Other people, you can see they were getting a little bit upset.
Yeah, there's no trains running to Thatcham direct at the moment, so there's either the 1808 or I've got to try and get to Reading.
So what's gone wrong? Well, it seems that a bracket holding up one of the electrical cables that powers the trains has broken, causing the cable to sag. 25,000 volts on that cable, so Network Rail had no choice but to shut one of the 4 lines out of here, and that's meant delays and cancellations.
I know it's been frustrating, particularly for some people. It's the first day back at work. Unfortunately, on one of our 4 lines into Paddington, we've had a problem with the overhead line equipment, which meant we couldn't run on it.
Why couldn't you fix it during the day and have it all sorted before this evening's rush hour?
Due to the need to turn off some of the overhead line to complete the work, it would have meant that we would have further disrupted the services for people already travelling today, and it was felt that the best thing to do was to fix it overnight to give us service tomorrow morning.
So not the weather to be hanging around in, and just to emphasise that winter has arrived, snow flurries appeared in London and the home counties today. It wasn't heavy enough to cause disruption in itself, but certainly a reminder that we're at that time of year when any disruption to your journey to work or journey home is unwelcome. Charlene.
OK, Simon, thanks very much.
Good evening. In 4 months' time, voters will head to the polls for local elections, but dozens of councils could have them postponed for a second year in a row. One of those is Basildon Borough Council in Essex, currently run by Labour. Opposition parties have criticised the council leader, who has laid out plans to ask the government for another year-long delay in order to better establish the changes made after the national reform of local government. Conservative and Reform members say it'll prevent residents from choosing new councillors who think better represent them. Well, here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Chris has been repairing watches in Basildon Town Centre for 30 years, and he has a theory about why Labour wants to cancel the council election on May the 7th.
They're probably scared that we're going to vote reform.
Are you?
Yes, absolutely.
In his barber's shop, Seamus is used to talking politics with his customers.
Labour's just blown it. They're all going to go reform. So anyone that's Labour at the moment, if there was an election, it would be reform.
Like every other local authority in Essex, Basildon Council is on death row. The government wants to scrap the current system of local government. Under proposals announced by the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, there will be fewer councils and more mayors.
Our devolution revolution will deliver the greatest transfer of power from Whitehall to our communities in a generation.
The government believes May's elections will put an unnecessary strain on councils at a time of huge upheaval. A spokesperson said these are exceptional circumstances where councils have told us they're struggling to prepare for resource-intensive elections. But one of 2 Reform UK councillors in Basildon believes Labour has been spooked by the opinion polls.
I think for the opinion polls to show that 1 in 2 residents would vote reform, and if you compare that to other parties like Labour, where it's 1 in 11, I think that is a testament to what we're doing here locally.
At Langdon Leisure Centre, there was indignation that the election might be off.
I think it's disgusting because I think it's Keir Starmer's way of trying to keep himself in Parliament.
Labour are not doing any good, and Conservative didn't, so yeah, I'm going for reform.
The suffragettes, they suffered for us to have votes. and now they're taking it away from us.
The government has asked councils to submit their views on whether elections should go ahead. Basildon Council's Labour leader wasn't available to talk to us, but papers published online make it clear a meeting of the council's cabinet tomorrow will recommend postponing the election.
If they start cancelling elections, you're cancelling democracy, bits by bits, because you could get to the state, we cancelled it last year, we'll cancel it next year. And so, democracy sort of disappears.
Ministers will make the final decision on the elections sometime in the coming weeks.
And Simon, Reform have also made it clear today they are targeting the capital.
Yes, the next election for London Mayor isn't until 2028. But today, Reform UK's leader Nigel Farage announced the name of his party's candidate for that election. She's Layla Cunningham, a mother of 7 and former Conservative councillor in Westminster before she defected. Now, the election for London Mayor is more than 2 years away, but there is an ulterior motive. Farage wants her to be the figurehead for his party's campaign in the London Borough elections in May.
And she, from this moment on, will be the head of Reform UK London, our candidate for the mayor next year, but the face of our campaign as we fight a strong, vigorous campaign in all 32 London boroughs in the run-up to May the 7th.
Cunningham clearly has Sadiq Khan in her sights and immediately announced she would scrap the ultra-low emission zone.
ULEZ isn't about quality of air or air quality, it's about cash and control. He knew it would hit working Londoners the hardest. He just didn't care. He just wanted to be some kind of international eco-warrior.
Sir Sadiq Khan hasn't yet announced whether he's going to stand again as Labour's candidate for a record 4th term. His spokesperson or sources close to him said today he's just doing the job for a fairer, greener, safer London.
All right, Simon, thank you. Good evening. For decades, mistrust in the country's biggest police force has been one of its greatest weaknesses. Now, a new review by the Metropolitan Police has found that thousands of officers did not undergo proper vetting procedures during a recruitment drive. Of those, more than 130 were found guilty of crimes or misconduct after entering the force, and those include serial rapist David Carrick and child rapist Cliff Mitchell, who both had serious allegations made against them before becoming serving officers. The Met says this review is an example of its changed ways, offering honesty and transparency. But a fellow officer who was raped by Carrick says there are more officers out there who have not been vetted correctly. With the latest, here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Do something real. Become a police officer in London's Met.
Trawling for new recruits is a constant process, but when senior officers get it wrong, it can have devastating consequences, as a report today underlined.
The report illustrates a farcical situation where hitting targets of recruits has meant that normal checks and balances haven't been done and allowed officers in that normally wouldn't have gotten through the vetting regime.
David Carrick and Cliff Mitchell both managed to get in. Both were rapists. Mitchell's vetting panel approved him, despite knowing he'd been accused in the past of raping a child.
What is it you're searching for?
Carrick is now serving 37 life sentences. In his case, vetting failed to uncover an allegation of domestic abuse.
It's not just David Carrick. There's a lot of officers out there that have not been vetted correctly. Vetting does take a long time. There's a delay always, months if not years. I can understand if they're rushing them through to try and get them done because there's a backlog, but not to the detriment of allowing officers in that clearly shouldn't.
According to the report, in 2019, the Met relaxed vetting to hire 4,500 new recruits. In that time, as many as 1,200 are thought to have failed normal checks. In a 10-year period, 131 recruits who weren't properly vetted committed crimes or misconduct.
We now know people who shouldn't have been police officers were allowed police officers. People who shouldn't have been police officers went on to commit criminal offences.
You were there at the time.
What we had at the time was huge pressure from the then Conservative government to recruit record numbers.
TV presenter Jackie Adedeji, who accused a Metropolitan Police officer of sexual misconduct, isn't surprised by the report's findings.
I think it just makes people lose all hope. I mean, you look to the police to protect us.
then you hear stories like this, and then you just think, I feel so unsafe. As a woman, you feel unsafe anyway, but then knowing that, you know, if you needed help, you'd go to the police, and the police have predators in their ranks, you're like, well, where do I go to feel safe?
The Conservatives said the Met had been enthralled to diversity, equality and inclusion.
Everybody these days is ticking boxes to make sure that they've got 50% women, 50% men, and it goes on and on and on, and they've got to stop.
In a statement, Scotland Yard said, "We found that some historical practices did not meet the strengthened hiring and vetting standards we have today. We identified these issues ourselves and have fixed them quickly while making sure any risk to the public has been properly and effectively managed." But renewed public confidence in the Met will take more than reassuring words. Simon Harris, ITV News.